Chapter 965. The battle between Lu Ming and Luo Tian had reached its climax. Luo Tian was at a complete disadvantage. Bang! Lu Ming's palm landed on Luo Tian's shoulder. One of Luo Tian's arms almost exploded as he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. Ah, damn it! Luo Tian roared as a demonic god appeared above his head. This demonic god had 3 heads and 6 arms. Each arm was holding a huge saber. 6 golden chakras were shining brightly. Luo Tian's third bloodline was a level 6 divine bloodline. He was comparable to the patriarchs of the 6 ancient families. His talent was extremely terrifying. Now, 2 more dragon forces erupted from Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body instantly appeared above Luo Tian's head as he stomped towards Luo Tian. A terrifying power surged towards Luo Tian. Luo Tian was about to perform bloodline fusion, but he didn't expect Lu Ming's speed to be so shocking. He instantly appeared above Luo Tian's head and unleashed a terrifying attack, interrupting the bloodline fusion. He could only use his saber to block. However, bang! The saber light he slashed out shattered under Lu Ming's feet. A terrifying power pressed down on his body, almost causing him to fall to the ground. Crack! His bones let out cracking sounds as though they were about to explode. He coughed out a mouthful of blood. How can he be so strong? How can his strength be so strong? Do I have to admit defeat? No, I can't admit defeat. How can I admit defeat to Lu Ming? At this moment, many thoughts flashed through Luo Tian's mind. But it was this one thought that decided his fate. Swish! Lu Ming's claws grew long and sharp nails. They were like dragon claws as they clawed at Luo Tian. All of Luo Tian's attacks and defenses exploded in Lu Ming's hands. The dragon-like claws pierced into Luo Tian's chest. No, I admit. At this moment Luo Tian roared madly. He wanted to admit defeat, but Lu Ming's energy exploded, and Luo Tian's heart exploded. Luo Tian's cries came to an abrupt stop. His eyes widened as he stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. He could feel his life force rapidly leaving his body. Endless fear enveloped him. Was he going to die at the hands of Lu Ming? How could this be? In the next moment, everything before his eyes turned black, and he no longer knew anything. His life force had been extinguished. Impossible. Looking at this scene, the Wang clan's clan had roared furiously. Luo Tian, Lu Ming killed Luo Tian. Beside the Wang family head, an old man roared, his killing intent soaring to the heavens. This person was also a paragon of the Imperial Guards. He was Luo Tian's master. He simply could not accept that Luo Tian had actually died. Luo Tian possessed peerless natural talent, and his third bloodline was at the 6th rank of the god rank. Charging into the domain enlightened spirit god realm in the future was something that was 100% certain, and it was even to the extent that it was very likely that he would be able to charge into the exalt realm. Luo Tian was a future paragon, but now he had died just like that. This was an extremely huge loss. How many paragons could there be in the entire Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? This generation had reached a golden age, where geniuses and experts were as numerous as clouds. In the past, a talent like Luo Tian's could suppress an era, and no one would be able to defeat him. Just like those paragons now, when they were young, they were almost invincible, and they defeated all their opponents to become paragons. It was very rare for an era to have a few supreme beings. But this era was different. With Luo Tian's talent, he could only be ranked 10th on the list of top 1,000 talents. Haha, well done! Yan Kuangta laughed loudly, attracting many murderous gazes from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. But Yan Kuangta simply ignored them. Martial Emperor Di Yi's face was still very calm, and there was not a trace of emotion in his eyes. It was as if he did not care about Luo Tian's death at all. This Lu Ming is quite interesting. A charming voice came from the Sky Demon Valley's side. This voice was so soft that it made people feel numb all over. It was the voice of a demon emperor. When many young people heard this voice, they felt hot all over, and their hearts beat faster. Even the women were no exception. It was as if the voice of a demon emperor was full of infinite charm. It's quite interesting. The corpse emperor spoke. His voice was hoarse and very harsh. Many people wanted to vomit blood when they heard this voice, which was completely different from the demon emperor's voice. Some young people hurriedly operated their chi to stabilize themselves. On the battlefield, Lu Ming's devouring power burst out and devoured Luo Tian, turning him into a mummy. Rumble. Luo Tian's blood essence and genuine core force were very strong. Even his bloodline began to be refined rapidly. Roar. The Providence Dragon above Lu Ming's head directly swallowed Luo Tian's Providence Dragon. In an instant, Lu Ming's Providence Dragon increased by 200 feet. It soared to 117 feet, close to 120 feet. At this time, the color of Lu Ming's Dragon of Luck also changed. Originally, the Dragon of Luck was purple, but now it had turned into a purplish gold color. Not far away, the young man in the golden robe and the sky prides of the Heavenly Corpse sect and Sky Beastkin Valley widened their eyes. Luo Tian is dead. Luo Tian was killed by Lu Ming. How could this be? The young man in the golden robe muttered to himself, his eyes full of disbelief. In his eyes, Luo Tian was almost invincible, but he was killed by Lu Ming. This was a huge blow to him. Run! Run! The young man in the golden robe was scared to death. When he thought of joining forces to deal with Lu Ming, he trembled in fear. Lu Ming could probably kill them easily without giving them a chance to fight back. In the distance, the sky prides of the Sky Beastkin Valley and Heavenly Corpse sect were also scared out of their wits. They turned around and ran. Did I say you could leave? Lu Ming looked at them coldly. He executed the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. His body was like a stream of light as he instantly approached the young man in the golden robe. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. The young man in the golden robe screamed. Suddenly, a beam of light shrouded him. Above Lu Ming's head, the purplish gold Providence Dragon swallowed 90% of the young man's Providence Dragon. Then, the young man in the golden robe was sent out. Lu Ming did not stop. His speed was terrifyingly fast. In a short while, he was about to catch up with the sky prides of the Sky Beastkin Valley and Heavenly Corpse sect. The two of them were horrified and admitted defeat. In the end, 90% of their providence was swallowed by Lu Ming and sent out. Lu Ming, I knew you would come. Bai Qi Shui came to Lu Ming's side with a smile on her face. Let's go and seize the providence. Lu Ming smiled and turned around. Bai Qi Shui followed by his side. In the stands, the people of the Talisman Puppet sect revealed relaxed smiles. In the 8th battlefield, even Luo Tian had been killed by Lu Ming. There was no one who could threaten Lu Ming. The strongest sky pride of the demon race was only on par with Luo Tian. There were a few other sky prides who could transform their providence into dragons. They were definitely not Lu Ming's match. Lu Ming could be said to be unrestrained. Chapter 966. As for Lu Ming, there was no doubt that he would win first place in battlefield number 8. Now, he already had a Providence Dragon that was more than 120 feet long. In battlefield number 8, unless everyone's Providence was added together, they would not be able to compare with Lu Ming's. Next, Lu Ming went on a rampage. Anyone who met Lu Ming and was foolish enough to attack him would be killed by Lu Ming, while others would shout and admit defeat. Half an hour later, Lu Ming was followed by more than 10 disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect. Lu Ming wanted to lead them to the end. Oh no, Rukong is in danger. He's going to meet the Emperor God. A founding elder suddenly called out from the spectator stands. There was no more suspense in battlefield number 8. Everyone turned to look at the other battlefields. The people of the Talisman Puppet sect could not help but look at battlefield number 1. The genius of the Talisman Puppet sect, Rukong, was in battlefield number 1. Everyone could see that Rukong was in a hurry. The Providence Dragon above his head was about 200 feet long. On the other side, the Emperor God was flying toward Rukong at a terrifying speed. However, Rukong did not seem to notice him. At this rate, the two of them would soon meet. The people of the Talisman Puppet sect were nervous. Sure enough, the two of them met in just a dozen breaths. Rukong heard the noise and turned to look. His pupil shrank sharply. Rukong did not hesitate and was about to admit defeat. Die. At the same time, the Emperor God attacked. A sword light was unbelievably fast. It seemed to have pierced through layers of space in an instant and slashed Rukong's body. Before Wukong could say, "I admit defeat," he was torn to pieces by the terrifying sword light. It was too fast. Wukong could not react in time. "Wukong!" Du Songjue roared in grief. How could this be? The other elders of the Talisman Puppet sect looked gloomy. Wukong was an expert second only to Huan Zhen in the Talisman Puppet sect, and ranked 15th on the list of top 1,000 talents. However, he was killed just like that. The Emperor God's battle strength was unfathomable. After killing Wukong and devouring his Providence Dragon, the Emperor God did not stop at all. He turned into a golden light and flew into the distance. Ha ha ha. Well done. The geniuses of your Talisman Puppet sect will all die. Although Lu Ming managed to keep his life, he will still die if he encounters an imperial god in the future. Mocking laughter rang out from the region of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Du Songjue and the others clenched their fists tightly. The Talisman Puppet sect originally had 13 Zongzi candidates. Previously, 7 of them had perished. Now that another one had perished, there were only 5 left. Then, they looked at Wen Yuezhang and the others. Unfortunately, their luck wasn't good either. They encountered an elite that they couldn't defeat, but fortunately, they weren't killed in a single blow. They all admitted defeat one after another. As time passed, some people were killed, but even more people were defeated or admitted defeat, and were teleported out of the battlefield. On the spectator stands, more and more people appeared. Many people sighed. After admitting defeat, they didn't have much luck left. Wan Tingting also appeared on the grandstand. She had encountered a strong opponent, and directly admitted defeat. And in the 8 battlefields, the killing became more and more intense. On the 8th battlefield, Lu Ming was almost invincible. Later on, several experts who had reached the dragon transformation realm encountered Lu Ming. However, when they saw Lu Ming's Providence Dragon that was hundreds of feet long, their faces changed drastically, and they turned to flee. They weren't fools. Needless to say, those who had plotted against Lu Ming had given their luck to Lu Ming since Lu Ming had survived until now and his Providence Dragon had soared by dozens of feet. What were they waiting for? However, with Lu Ming's speed, how could they escape? In the end, they admitted defeat one after another. In the end, Lu Ming's true Dragon of Luck was almost 150 feet long. It was hovering in the sky, and one could see it from afar. Those who saw it from afar had a drastic change of expression. They turned and ran. Even the genius from the Sky Monster Valley, who was as famous as Luo Tian, ran faster than anyone else. This made Lu Ming feel a little depressed. They were too far apart, and it was more troublesome for him to chase after them. Moreover, he was afraid that he would be lured away, and the Talisman Puppet sect disciples would be in danger. Therefore, Lu Ming could not be bothered to chase after them. The outcome of the 8th battlefield had been decided, and so was the first battlefield. The other battlefields were filled with smoke. Huan Zhen has encountered Dongfang Yu. An elder from the Talisman Puppet sect shouted. The others looked at the 4th battlefield with their hearts in their mouths. The experts from the other forces also looked at the 4th battlefield. Huan Zhen and Dongfang Yu were going to be a top battle. Huan Zhen was ranked 8th on the list of top 1,000 talents, while Dongfang Yu was ranked 3rd, second only to Di Shen and Xue Jiani. As soon as the two of them met, a fierce battle broke out. However, it was obvious that Dongfang Yu was stronger, but Huan Zhen didn't want to make any mistakes. Huan Zhen was like a bright moon. His entire body glowed, and bright moons appeared in front of him, blocking Huan Zhen's attack. This was an extremely powerful defensive formation that was many times stronger than the one Ji Mai had used to inscribe with his own body. At the same time, inscription arrays constantly appeared beside Huan Zhen. At the same time, inscription talismans were activated. All kinds of light flashed and defensive formations were formed. Although Dongfang Yu was extremely powerful, Huan Zhen was focused on defense. It was impossible for him to break through in a short time. The two of them were in a stalemate. In the end, Dongfang Yu had no choice but to retreat. The people from the Talisman Puppet sect heaved a sigh of relief. The people from the Emperor God Divine Palace snorted unhappily. They felt that it was a pity that Dongfang Yu didn't kill Huan Zhen. At this moment, Fatty and Wang Fenshen were fighting in the second battlefield. Die! When Wang Fenshen saw Fatty, he exploded with killing intent and launched a fierce attack. He knew that Fatty was the disciple of the demonic Sky Divine Emperor, but this was a battle of luck. Even if he killed Fatty, the demonic Sky Divine Emperor couldn't say anything. Damn it, you're still 10,000 years too early to kill me. Fatty shouted and unleashed his bloodline. The third bloodline, 8 golden chakras, almost made Wang Fenshen's eyes pop out. Even the spiritual gods and supremes in the stands couldn't control their emotions. They stood up from the stands with a face of shock. 8th level divine bloodline. It's actually an 8th level divine bloodline. This is too terrifying. Except for the sovereigns, everyone was shocked. Senior demonic sky's disciple is indeed extraordinary. Supreme Nine Yang sighed. Du Songjue and the others nodded. They had seen Fatty before. But they didn't expect this unreliable Fatty to be so terrifying. As expected of the sovereign's disciple. Damn it. The Wang family head, and the others were shocked. An 8th level divine bloodline was rare in the world. For example, Yin Kuangtu was a 8th level divine bloodline. He was so powerful that he could fight against 3 supremes alone. They remembered that Fatty was Lu Ming's life and death brother. Fenshen, kill this Fatty, kill him. The Wang family head roared. This Fatty was too terrifying. Once he grew up, he would be another Yin Kuangtu. Chapter 967. Old Monster Emotion's eyesight is not bad to have taken in such a disciple. Demon Emperor's soft voice rang out again. Martial Emperor De, and the Corpse Emperor's eyes lit up. Even martial emperors were tempted by someone who could awaken an 8th level divine bloodline. So what if you are an 8th level divine bloodline? I can still kill you. Wang Fenshen launched a terrifying attack towards Fatty. Although Fatty's bloodline was of a high grade, his cultivation was slightly weaker. It looked like he had just broken through to the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. However, Fatty didn't want to make any mistakes. He was on the defensive the whole time. In the end, he took out a huge shield to isolate Wang Fenshen's flames. Wang Fenshen continued to attack. Fatty shouted, but he could not break through the shield. Time continued to pass. Suddenly, the 8 battlefields shook and the light shield shone brightly. All the people in the battlefields were teleported out. An hour was up. Haha, you want to deal with me? Dream on. Fatty found himself on the spectator stand. He laughed arrogantly and looked at Wang Fenshen provocatively. Wang Fenshen's eyes were about to spit fire. Fatty, you have awakened an 8th level divine bloodline. Impressive. At this moment, a huge axe was floating above Fatty's head. 8 golden chakras were shining brightly. Bai Qixue widened her eyes and looked at Fatty in shock. Lu Ming was also surprised. He did not expect Fatty's 3rd bloodline to be so terrifying. It was actually an 8th level divine bloodline. No wonder Fatty was so mysterious when they first met. When Lu Ming asked him, he did not say anything. Countless pairs of eyes were looking at Fatty. Some were shocked, some were envious, and some were jealous. Ha ha ha, excuse me. This is talent. It can't be helped. I was born with it. Fatty was extremely proud and laughed heartily. When he saw others looking at him, he felt extremely comfortable. He laughed so hard that he could not even open his eyes. God is so unfair. He actually let this damn Fatty awaken an 8th level divine bloodline. Someone in Emperor Heaven Divine Palace gritted his teeth. That's right. What a waste. It's like a flower being stuck in cow dung. Someone said again. The Fatty's ears twitched a few times. When he heard these words, he was instantly displeased. He stared at these people with an unfriendly gaze and shouted, "You guys are the fucking cow dung. Every single one of you is just envious and jealous. I am a proud son of heaven. In the future, I am destined to dominate the world and trample all of you under my feet." Damn it, this damn Fatty is really arrogant. Those people almost vomited blood from anger. Di Shun, Shuejiani, AO2, and the others also looked at Fatty solemnly. Fatty's cultivation was still low, but once he grew stronger, he would become their greatest enemy. At this time, many people looked at Lu Ming and were stunned. The dragon of luck above Lu Ming's head was too big and long. It was 1,000 feet long. It was too shocking. They had originally thought that Lu Ming would definitely be killed by Luo Tian, or the geniuses of the Sky Demon Valley in Battlefield number 8. They had not expected him to still be alive. Moreover, the length of his Dragon of Providence had become even more terrifying. What? Lu Ming killed Luo Tian. When they found out the truth, they were all dumbfounded. Lu Ming could actually kill Luo Tian? How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so strong? Before the start of the battle, some people had thought that Luo Tian and the others were lucky to be assigned to the same battlefield as Lu Ming. Now their faces were pale, and cold sweat was dripping down their backs. This was not good luck, it was bad luck. If they had been assigned to battlefield number 8, they might have suffered the same fate as Luo Tian. They knew that they had underestimated Lu Ming. Di Shun and the others looked at Lu Ming with surprise. At this time, the 8 battlefields on the fighting ring had all disappeared and returned to their original appearance. At the same time, 8 rays of light fell on the 8 people. They were Lu Ming, Di Shun, Ao2 Shuejiani, Shizhan Fengxian, Dongfang Yu and Wang Fenshen. These 8 people were the 8 people with the highest providence value in the 8 battlefields. Among them, Lu Ming was the only one from the Talisman Puppet sect. Di Shun, Dongfang Yu, and Wang Fenshen had the most people from Di Shun's palace. Shuejiani and Shizhan were the 2 from Heavenly Corpse sect. Ao2 and Fengxian were the 2 from Sky Monster Valley. Fengxian was an extremely beautiful woman and a peerless genius from Sky Monster Valley. She had the Phoenix bloodline in her body. Next, the 8 geniuses would compete for each other's providence. The rules were the same as before. If you were defeated, half of your providence would be taken away. If you admitted defeat, 90% of your providence would be taken away. If you were killed, all of your providence would belong to your opponent. Next was the final battle of the Providence Battle. It was also the most powerful battle. Every one of them was extremely powerful. Among them, Lu Ming was a dark horse. There was another dark horse, Fengxian from Sky Monster Valley. Both of them were rising geniuses. The others were all famous geniuses in the Eastern Wilderness. Ao2 was considered a genius who could compete with Di Shun. Some people thought that Ao2 was stronger than Shuejiani, who ranked second on the list of top 1,000 talents. Di Shun ranked first on the list of top 1,000 talents. Most people thought that Di Shun was the top genius of the younger generation in the Eastern Wilderness and was invincible. Dongfang Yu ranked third on the list of top 1,000 talents. Shizhan ranked fourth on the list of top 1,000 talents. Wang Fenshen ranked 5th on the list of top 1,000 talents. Everyone was looking forward to the next battle. After this battle, the list of top 1,000 talents would be rearranged. Buzz! Of the 8 rays of light, 6 had disappeared, leaving only 2 behind. One light shrouded Lu Ming, while the other shrouded Wang Fenshen. The first battle was between Lu Ming and Wang Fenshen. Everyone's eyes fell on the 2 of them. Wang Fenshen looked at Lu Ming with a strong killing intent in his eyes. Fenshen, are you confident? The Wang clan leader asked. His providence is mine. Wang Fenshen licked his lips with a greedy look. He moved and landed on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, if you can't beat him, you can admit defeat. Du Songjue warned in a low voice. Haha, I believe that Lu Ming will win. Yen Kuangta laughed. Fatty, you were burned by this guy. I'll avenge you now. Lu Ming smiled. He took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring. Both of them had a true Dragon of Providence above their heads. Right now, Wang Fenshen's true Dragon of Providence was a full 500 feet long. However, in front of Lu Ming's true Dragon of Providence, it looked like a tiny dot. Lu Ming's true Dragon of Providence looked down on it. Lu Ming, I have to thank you for getting so much providence. It's all mine later. The greed in Wang Fenshen's eyes grew stronger. You're very confident. Luo Tian was so confident before, but I killed him in the end. Lu Ming smiled, revealing a contemptuous expression. Humph, don't compare me with Luo Tian. I can kill him if I fight with all my strength. Wang Fenshen said coldly. Oh, really? Shall we have a life and death duel? Chapter 968. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. In the ancient battle platform of the ancient city of Providence, a life and death battle could be set. However, once it was set, both sides had to fight to the death. If they did not fight to the death, it would not end. They could not even admit defeat. Originally, the last battle would only last for half an hour. If the winner was not decided after half an hour, the winner would be automatically determined. However, once the life and death battle was set, there would be no time limit. It would only end when one side died in battle. Setting the life and death battle meant that there was no way out. One had to win. If one lost, one would die. Even sovereigns and rulers could not interfere. One had to be extremely confident in themselves to set the life and death battle. Would Wang Fenshen dare to agree? Everyone's eyes were focused on Wang Fenshen. At this moment, Wang Fenshen's eyes were uncertain. He stared at Lu Ming, as if he wanted to see through him. Was Lu Ming bluffing? Or was he really that strong? Did he dare to have a life and death battle with him? However, Lu Ming's expression was calm. He could not tell at all. Moreover, he did not see the specific situation in the battle between Lu Ming and Luo Tian. He was not sure about Lu Ming's strength. Do you dare or not? Lu Ming spoke again. His voice was calm but aggressive. Why should I agree to the life and death battle? Anyway, I'm definitely going to win this battle. Wang Fenshen quibbled. Ridiculous. Since you think you're going to win, why don't you agree to the life and death battle? Back in Nine Dragons City, your Wang family's patriarch was almost killed by me. You must hate me to the bone, right? You want to kill me 10,000 times. Since you want to kill me and have the confidence to do so, why don't you agree to the life and death battle? There's only one reason. You're afraid. You're not confident in killing me. You're not confident in this battle. If you're not confident in yourself, how can you defeat me? Lu Ming's words hit Wang Fenshen's heart. Every word hit Wang Fenshen's vital point. If Wang Fenshen did not even have the confidence to win, how could he defeat Lu Ming? Damn you little bastard! The head of the Wang family growled as his eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. That day in the Nine Dragons City, he was almost beaten to death by Lu Ming. This was the shame of his life. Now Lu Ming actually brought up the old matter again, and even used it to pressure Wang Fenshen. This made the head of the Wang family furious. Haha, Lu Ming, you almost killed the old one. How could a young one dare to fight you to the death? I think that Wang something Tian should just admit defeat. Don't embarrass yourself here. The Wang clan is a bunch of cowards. The fatty laughed loudly, and his words were even more insulting. The patriarch of the Wang clan and Wang Fenshen almost exploded from anger. At this time, Wang Fenshen's face was flushed red. He was burning with anger, and his killing intent was blazing. Alright, I promise you. Wang Fenshen roared. He had to win this battle. After hearing Lu Ming's words, if he still did not win, his martial arts heart would be unstable. Moreover, the entire Wang family would become the laughing stock of Eastern Wilderness. He wanted to grind Lu Ming's bones and turn him into ashes. Alright, I will fight to the death with Wang Fenshen. Lu Ming said loudly. Fight to the death. Wang Fenshen replied. A blazing aura rushed into the sky. Buzz. At this moment, a faint blood light appeared on Lu Ming and Wang Fenshen's bodies. This meant that the fight to the death had been set. It was useless to admit defeat until one of them died. Raging flames burned the sky. Wang Fenshen's killing intent was cold, but his body was filled with raging flames. Wang Fenshen seemed to have turned into a man of fire. His muscles, bones, and even his hair were burning as if they had all turned into flames. 6 fingers burn the sky, destroy with 1 finger. Wang Fenshen strode forward and pointed his finger. A finger was formed by flames. It was hundreds of meters long, and had clear fingerprints on it. It was like the finger of a god. It pointed towards Lu Ming. A terrifying heat and killing intent burst out and surged towards Lu Ming. Wang Fenshen used a terrifying killing move as soon as he made his move. Since he had agreed to the fight to the death, Wang Fenshen let go of everything and fought with all his might. A dragon's roar sounded. Lu Ming burst out with a dragon's power. His body was covered with scales and surrounded by 4 types of concepts. He punched out. Boom! The fist and Fenshen's finger collided. The fist and the flaming finger collided, and waves of energy burst out. One side of the 100-mile-long and wide battle stage was covered with purple flames, while the other side was covered with 4 colors. In the end, the flaming finger exploded. Lu Ming's body trembled slightly, and he took 2 steps back. The fusion of the destruction concept and the fire concept, and the cultivation of the early stage of the 8th level of spirit embryo realm. After exchanging a blow, Lu Ming had a rough idea of Wang Fengshen's strength. Wang Fengshen had comprehended 2 concepts and successfully fused them. The destruction concept and the fire concept had reached the 3rd level of perfection. When they fused together, their destructive power was terrifying. If this was not the ancient city of fate's battle stage, it would have been destroyed and turned into lava. Moreover, Wang Fengshen's cultivation was higher than Luo Tian's. He had reached the early stage of the 8th level of spirit embryo realm. Wang Fengshen was indeed a peerless genius ranked 5th on the list of top 1,000 talents. His strength was terrifying. 6 fingers burn the sky, suppress with 2 fingers. 6 fingers burn the sky, destroy with 3 fingers. 6 fingers burn the sky, destroy with 4 fingers. Wang Fengshen's flaming vital essence burst out as he pointed 3 fingers. The 3 huge fingers formed a triangle and slammed towards Lu Ming. Prison suppressing heaven skill. The vital essence in Lu Ming's body roared and boiled as he activated the prison suppressing heaven skill to 50% of its power. If he used the prison suppressing heaven skill at full strength, it would be equivalent to the power of a low-grade divine martial technique. A low-grade divine martial technique was equivalent to the 1st level of a low-grade divine martial technique. Only an expert of the spiritual god realm could unleash its full power. Now that he had reached the peak of the 7th level of spirit embryo realm, he did not have enough vital essence to unleash its full power. However, 50% of its power was still terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming punched 3 times in a row as the power of the prison suppressing steel erupted and suppressed everything. The 3 flaming fingers were immediately destroyed and dissipated into flames. Wang Fengshen's expression changed slightly as he waved his hands and pointed 2 more fingers. 6 fingers burn the sky, shatter 5 fingers, burn the sky with 6 fingers. The 2 finger forces struck out one after another, causing the space to tremble like a piece of cloth. Wherever the finger forces passed, the space turned into a vacuum. Lu Ming felt a terrifying power surging towards him. This power was incomparably hot, as if it wanted to turn him into ashes. 4 kinds of concepts revolved around him and formed a battle armor that covered his entire body. Lu Ming took a big step forward and punched out 2 more times in a row. 2 earth-shattering explosions rang out, as if the entire ancient city of fate was violently shaking. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. However, when it reached the edge of the battle stage, it was blocked by an invisible energy and couldn't charge over at all. The 2 flaming fingers were destroyed by Lu Ming's attack and collapsed. Chapter 969. Wang Fengshen's expression became very grave. He did not show any mercy. His first move was a killer move. He wanted to kill Lu Ming with powerful means. He did not expect Lu Ming to be so terrifying that he could defeat his attack and kill him. A purple flame floated above his head. As soon as this flame appeared, the space around it began to crackle. It was as if space itself was fuel that was being burned by this flame. The 7 golden chakras on this ball of flame also attracted everyone's attention. Level 7 Divine Class Bloodline. Wang Fengshen's bloodline had reached the terrifying level of Level 7 Divine Class. Wang Fengshen's body turned into light and merged with the bloodline. Then, the purple flame twisted and turned into a flame giant that was more than 10 meters tall. The flame giant held a flame sword and slashed at Lu Ming. The scorching flame made Lu Ming's 4-color intent realm tremble. Kill! Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. The 9 dragons bloodline appeared. In the next moment, Lu Ming turned into 9 dragons. Level 6 Divine Class 9 Dragons Bloodline. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Ming and the 9 dragons bloodline. It's the 9 dragons, the legendary 9 dragons. I didn't expect Lu Ming to awaken the 9 dragons bloodline. God, the 9 dragons are more powerful than the real dragons. I've never heard of anyone who could awaken the 9 dragons bloodline. As soon as the 9 dragons bloodline appeared, there were exclamations. especially those from Emperor Sky Divine Palace and Sky Demon Valley. The Nine Dragons bloodline, it's the Nine Dragons bloodline. No wonder he can control the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. It must be related to the Nine Dragons bloodline. The Wang family head muttered to himself. The Nine Dragons bloodline. I must get it. A flood dragon supremacy from the demon clan stared at Lu Ming with burning eyes. He could not wait to swallow Lu Ming. AO2, the flood dragon clan Sky Prides, also had burning eyes. The Nine Dragons bloodline was a fatal temptation for the flood dragon clan's elders. Back then, you personally attacked and wanted to capture Lu Ming. It seems that you already knew that he had the Nine Dragons bloodline. Your goal was the Nine Dragons bloodline, right? Said the Imperial Bestial Beast. Two bright eyes fell on Imperial Bestial DE. Many people's hearts trembled. Perhaps that was really the case. Emperor DE snorted and didn't say anything. Roar. On the fighting ring, dragon roars shook the sky. The nine dragons stepped on the sky, and the nine claws grabbed Wang Fengshen's battle sword. A rumbling sound rang out, and the battle sword collapsed. The dragon claw didn't stop, and it continued to attack. The flame giant roared angrily. Its terrifying fist blasted towards Lu Ming, but it was blocked by a dragon claw. Bang! 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 The nine dragons' heaven-stomping steps were executed consecutively. 6 consecutive waves of power blasted towards the flame giant. At the same time, he opened his mouth and devouring power burst out, enveloping the flame giant. Immediately, the flames on the flame giant's body trembled non-stop, as if they were about to collapse. Whoosh! The divine dragon swings its tail. The 9 tails lashed out at the flame giant. This move contained the power of the suppressing hell skill. Bang! The flame giant was heavily hit by the dragon's tail. A large part of its huge body exploded, and a huge gap appeared on its body. The flame giant staggered back. The gap on its body quickly healed, and the flames once again filled the air. Raging flame sky-burning sword. The flame giant roared angrily. The battle sword in his hand slashed out a blazing sword light, slashing towards the 9 dragons' heads. However, the 9 dragons' sharp claws blocked his sword. The two of them fought fiercely, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Of course, during this process, Lu Ming only released a strand of dragon force. He didn't use his full strength. Wang Fengshen was only his first opponent. There would be stronger opponents later. His final opponent was Dishan. Wang Fengshen's strength was indeed terrifying. If he fought with Luo Tian at the same level, he would be stronger than Luo Tian. However, although Wang Fengshen was strong, Lu Ming was stronger. After dozens of moves, he was completely suppressed by Lu Ming. Puff! Puff! The 9 dragons roared and grabbed the flame giant with their claws. They tore the flame giant apart, turning it into flames. However, the flames retreated and started to condense in the air again. The advantage of having a natural bloodline was that it had extremely tenacious vitality. However, Lu Ming wouldn't give him the chance. He stomped his dragon claws and unleashed the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. A huge force bombarded the flames. The flames that were about to condense exploded again. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the scene. Was Wang Fengshen going to be defeated? Was this peerless genius who had awakened a level 7 divine bloodline going to be killed by Lu Ming? No, damn it. The Wang family head's heart was in his mouth. He was the most nervous. Wang Fengshen was a rare peerless genius of the Wang family. He was even more talented than him when he was young. He was going to inherit his legacy in the future. However, he was in danger now. Because this was a life and death battle. Only when one side died would they stop. But now Wang Fengshen was completely suppressed. Roar! The 9 dragons roared, and a devouring force erupted from their mouths. They swallowed the flames that Wang Fengshen had exploded into. No! Wang Fengshen's horrified scream could be heard from the flames. The flames that were devoured by the 9 dragons were constantly being refined by the terrifying refining force of the 9 dragons. Don't you have strong vitality and can condense? Then I'll refine you. The remaining flames quickly flew backward and gathered together to form Wang Fengshen's appearance. At this moment, his face was pale and his body was trembling. Blood kept flowing out from the corner of his mouth. His eyes revealed a strong sense of horror. Bam! Bam! The 9 dragons stepped forward and pressed towards Wang Fenshen. No, Lu Ming, don't kill me. Let me go. Wang Fenshen screamed in horror and retreated. He had no strength to fight anymore. Let you go? Have you forgotten that this is a life and death battle? Lu Ming sneered. You're the winner. You're the winner now. If the winner speaks, he can let the opponent go. Wang Fenshen shouted. A life and death battle was a battle of life and death. Usually it would only end when one side died. Of course, there was another situation where the winner took the initiative to let the opponent go. However, since it was a life and death battle, how could the winner let the opponent go? Haha, Wang Fenshen, are you kidding me? Why should I let you go? Lu Ming laughed. Wang Fenshen was speechless. That's right. Why should Lu Ming let him go? They were mortal enemies. However, he really didn't want to die. With his peerless talent, he would have no problem becoming a supreme being in the future. He even wanted to become the supreme emperor and dominate the eastern wilderness. He had a boundless future. Why would he want to die? However, why should he ask Lu Ming to let him go? He couldn't help but look at the Wang family head. Lu Ming, let Fenshen go. I won't pursue the past. Chapter 970. Old man, who do you think you are? Lu Ming glanced at the head of the Wang clan and continued. You still say you won't pursue the matter? You and those old men attacked me together. I should be the one to pursue the matter. Do I need you to not pursue the matter? Ridiculous. His calm voice was filled with contempt. It spread throughout the place, making some people stunned. Contempt, this was blatant contempt. Lu Ming was looking down on a prime. The head of the Wang clan said he would not pursue the matter, but Lu Ming's meaning was clear. Did he need the head of the Wang clan to not pursue the matter? The one who should pursue the matter was him, Lu Ming. What a big tone, what a big confidence. However, at this moment, no one thought that Lu Ming was arrogant. Wang Fenshen had been defeated by Lu Ming. He had the right to be arrogant. In the future, he would have a great chance to become a prime. At that time, why would he be afraid of the head of the Wang clan? The head of the Wang clan was red in the face. He was furious. How many years had it been? Since he had become a prime, no one had dared to talk to him like that. No one had dared to look down on him like that. Even the other primes were polite to him. Now he was being looked down on by a young man in his 20s. This was an insult to him. Lu Ming turned back into his human form. He sneered and said, Old man, you said you won't pursue the matter. But can you represent the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace? Then he looked at Martial Emperor De, the head of the Wang clan, and the others also looked at Martial Emperor De. That's right. The head of the Wang clan was not in charge of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, but Martial Emperor De. At this moment, Martial Emperor De looked at Lu Ming with cold eyes. Lu Ming was not afraid at all. He looked at Martial Emperor De with a hint of provocation. Everyone was shocked. Lu Ming was simply audacious. He actually dared to look at Martial Emperor De in such a manner. However, Martial Emperor De did not say anything. The light in his eyes disappeared, and he became calm again. The head of the Wang clan looked terrible. Wang Fenshen was in despair. Martial Emperor De's attitude explained everything. Kill. Suddenly Lu Ming moved. His body moved like lightning as he rushed towards Wang Fenshen. No! Wang Fenshen roared, trying his best to resist. However, he was currently heavily injured, and did not have much strength left. How could he be Lu Ming's match? In just a few moves his bones and tendons were already snapped. Spurting large mouthfuls of blood, he collapsed to the ground like a dying dog. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming stepped on the fighting stage, and condensed a long spear in his hand. He walked towards Wang Fenshen with a cold killing intent covering his whole body. No, don't kill me, I don't want to die. Wang Fenshen roared. His body kept twisting as he tried to escape. His eyes were filled with endless fear. In his entire life, he had killed countless geniuses. Who knew how many of them he had slain? But now that he was about to die in the hands of another genius, he could not help but feel fear. Whoosh! Under everyone's gaze, the spear pierced through Wang Fenshen's heart. Powerful energy erupted and crushed Wang Fenshen's heart. Patriarch, avenge me! Wang Fenshen let out an unwilling roar. Then his life was extinguished. A genius of the generation had been killed by Lu Ming. The crowd sighed. If such a genius did not die, he would definitely become a figure who dominated the eastern wilderness in the future. It would not be a problem for him to become a supreme being. Unfortunately, there were countless geniuses in the world, but how many of them could grow up? A dead genius was destined to be a stepping stone for others. Lu Ming, I will kill you. The Wang family had roared, emitting a cold killing intent. His eyes were red, and his heart was bleeding. This time, the Wang family had suffered a great loss. The Wang family had a total of 4 geniuses, ranked in the top 100 of the list of top 1,000 talents. However, 2 of them had died before this. Now, even Wang Fenshen, who was the most talented, had died. Now the Wang family was left with only 1 genius. Originally, the Wang family had 4 geniuses ranked in the top 100 of the list of top 1,000 talents. It was as if the Wang family would rise quickly, surpass the other 5 ancient families, and become the leader of the ancient families in Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. But now everything was in vain. His hatred for Lu Ming could not be washed away, even with all the water in the world. Old man, that's what I wanted to say as well. Right now it's just a little interest. In the future, I'll personally take your dog head. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Wang Yan and Wang Chen were also killed by me. Lu Ming said coldly with a cold smile on his face. You deserve to die. The Wang family had roared angrily. As a supreme being who had lived for thousands of years, he had a strong mind, and had seen many storms. He would not get angry so easily. However, he could not remain calm in front of Lu Ming. In the Battle of 9 Dragons, he was almost beaten to death by Lu Ming. Now many geniuses of the Wang family had died at the hands of Lu Ming. He hated Lu Ming to the core. If it were not for the fact that his cultivation was completely suppressed in the ancient city of fate, he would have turned Lu Ming into ashes immediately. He took a few deep breaths to calm down. At this moment, Lu Ming's dragon of fate had devoured Wang Fenshen's dragon of fate. Lu Ming's dragon of fate had grown to almost 200 feet. At the same time, the devouring power erupted and devoured Wang Fenshen into a mummy. Then he took his storage ring and kicked him off the fighting ring. The Wang family head was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Lu Ming moved and returned to the spectator stand. Haha, amazing. Lu Ming, you've avenged me. That Wang Fenshen was so arrogant and dared to burn me with fire. Now he's a dead dog. The fat man laughed so excitedly that his mouth cracked. Also, Lu Ming, did you see that old man from the Wang family was so angry that his face turned red and smoke came out of his head? It was so exciting. The fat man continued to laugh. He did not lower his voice at all, and it spread throughout the arena. The Wang family head, who had just calmed down, was furious again. He was so angry that he trembled all over. These juniors deserve to die, he roared in his heart. Yen Kuangta drank a few mouthfuls of wine and laughed heartily. The others were a little speechless. These people were simply lawless. They did not know how to write the word fear. Then the battle continued. 2 more beams of light fell on 2 figures. Ao2 from Heavenly Demon Valley, and Dongfang Yu from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Many people's eyes suddenly shone with amazing light. It was another exciting battle. Dongfang Yu ranked 3rd on the list of top 1,000 talents, while Ao2 was said to be able to compete with Emperor Gods. The battle between the 2 would definitely be exciting. The 2 figures landed on the fighting ring. Without saying anything, the battle immediately broke out. Dongfang Yu was extremely powerful. He had cultivated 2 divine-level cultivation techniques, and his cultivation was at the early stage of the 8th tier of Spirit Embryo Realm. His bloodline was the same as Wang Fenshen's, a 7th divine-level bloodline. Dongfang Yu's overall strength was slightly stronger than Wang Fenshen's. However, Ao2 was stronger. Ao2 had more than 70% of the bloodline of a real dragon, almost 80%. He transformed into a flood dragon and fought with Dongfang Yu like a real dragon. The 2 fought fiercely for more than 50 moves. In the end, Dongfang Yu was defeated and admitted defeat, losing 90% of his luck. Chapter 971. The battle continued. When Ao2 and Dongfang Yu descended from the sky, Two beams of light landed on the corpse battle from the heavenly corpse sect and the arch-god. Di Shun was going to fight. At this moment, everyone's attention was on him. Di Shun was regarded as the #1 genius in the Eastern Wilderness. How strong was he? In the previous Battle of Providence, he had not encountered a decent opponent at all. Those who encountered him were all easily killed. His strength was simply unfathomable in the hearts of everyone. Now Zhan, who was ranked 4th on the list of top 1,000 talents, could force Di Shun to show his true strength? Everyone was looking forward to it. Even Lu Ming was shocked. In his mind, Di Shun was his ultimate opponent. The two figures landed on the fighting ring. Zhan looked dignified. Admit defeat. Di Shun's indifferent voice rang out. His posture was ramrod straight, and he was extraordinarily handsome. Just by standing there casually, he exuded the aura of a king, as if he was invincible. Yes, Di Shun had never been defeated by a younger generation. He was considered a rare genius, who had the potential to become an emperor in the future. The last genius who had the potential to become an emperor was Yen Kuangtu, and that was 100 years ago. He was asking Zhan to admit defeat. In my heart, there's no such thing as admitting defeat, not even to you, Di Shun. Zhan's eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit. I'll defeat you in 10 moves. Di Shun's indifferent voice rang out, full of strong confidence. Bam! He took a step forward, and a shocking sword chi burst out from his body and soared into the sky. The terrifying sword power spread toward Zhan. Roar! With a loud roar, Zhan unleashed his bloodline. It was a skeleton, an incomparably huge skeleton, shaped like an incomparably huge elephant. The skeleton of an ancient war elephant. Someone said softly, recognizing the origins of this skeleton. It was a skeleton formed by a powerful divine beast, surrounded by 7 golden chakras. It was also a 7th-level divine bloodline. Zhan performed bloodline fusion and turned into the skeleton of an ancient war elephant. It stomped on the ground and attacked Di Shun with great power. However, Di Shun's eyes were still calm. Clang! A sword cry rang out as a purple-gold sword light soared into the sky. It was filled with a luxurious aura. Boom! The purple-gold sword chi crossed dozens of miles of space and slashed at the ancient war elephant skeleton. A terrifying explosion resounded as sword chi shot out in all directions. The ancient war elephant skeleton was forced to retreat. Clang! 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 Sword cries resounded unceasingly as sword chi after sword chi burst out. Each sword chi was more terrifying than the last, as they continuously slashed towards the ancient war elephant skeleton. The ancient war elephant roared and unleashed its full strength to resist the sword chi of the emperor god. However, every time it received a strike, it would be forced back 5 miles. After receiving 9 consecutive strikes, the ancient war elephant had already retreated close to 50 miles. Then with a bang, the ancient war elephant exploded and turned back into Corpse Warrior. Corpse Warrior's face was pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was trembling, and he could not even stand properly. There was shock and disbelief in his eyes. I admit defeat. Corpse Warrior let out a long sigh. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when Corpse Battle admitted defeat. At the same time, they looked at the Emperor God in shock. Too strong. The Emperor God was too strong. He said that he would defeat Corpse Warrior in 10 moves. And he really only used 10 strikes before Corpse Warrior admitted defeat. In fact, the Emperor God did not even use bloodline fusion. The Emperor God is too strong. No one can defeat him. Even AO2 and Shuejiani are no match for him. That's right. Until now, we still don't know how much strength he has used. It's too terrifying and unfathomable. Many people were discussing in shock. Even the Supremes could not stay calm. Only the 3 sovereigns were still calm. In the stands, Shuejiani and AO2's eyes were extremely solemn. Lu Ming's eyes were also solemn. Lu Ming, are you confident in defeating the Emperor God? Du Songjue asked Lu Ming in a low voice. I'm not confident. Lu Ming shook his head. He was indeed not confident. Even if he used all his strength, he was not confident. Corpse Warrior's battle strength was definitely not weaker than Wang Fenshin, but he was still easily defeated by the Emperor God. His battle strength was simply unfathomable. His cultivation should still be at the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, but he should have reached the peak of the 8th level. However, I'm not too sure about his martial arts and bloodline level. Yan Kuangtu said. You've been in the Emperor God Palace for so many years, but you're not too sure? Du Songjue said. Yan Kuangtu shook his head and said, the Emperor God has always been secretly nurtured by De. I know very little about him. Lu Ming, if you really can't defeat the Emperor God, just admit defeat. In the end, Yan Kuangtu said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he did not answer. Really can't defeat him? What if I break through again? Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. Unfortunately, I'm still a little short. It's getting harder and harder to raise my cultivation. Lu Ming thought secretly. The 9 Dragons bloodline was refining Wang Fenshen's blood essence continuously. At this moment, it was almost done, but his cultivation was still at the peak of the 7th level of the spirit embryo realm. According to Yan Kuangtu, the Emperor God's cultivation was at the peak of the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm. If Lu Ming's cultivation also broke through to the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, he would be confident. Lu Ming was not afraid of anyone at the same level. He had this confidence. Then let's start refining the origin stones. Thinking of this, a large amount of origin stones appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The power of devouring burst forth from his palm and swallowed the large amount of origin stones, starting to refine them. The Emperor God won and swallowed 90% of Corpse Battle's fate before returning to the spectator stand. The next battle was between Shuejian Yi and Feng Xian of the Sky Demon Valley. Feng Xian of the Sky Demon Valley had the Phoenix bloodline and had also reached 70%. Her battle power was incomparably strong, and her speed was extremely fast. She started a pinnacle battle with Shuejian Yi. This battle could be said to be the most intense of the 4 battles. The 2 of them fought for a total of 200 moves before the victor was decided. In the end, Shuejian Yi won by a little. At this point, the strongest 4 had appeared. They were Lu Ming, the Emperor God, Ao2 and Shuejian Yi. Next, it was the battle between the 4 of them. After these few battles, Lu Ming had a rough idea of everyone's strength. Dongfang Yu, Corpse Battle, and Wang Fenshen's strength were very close and on the same level. As for Feng Xian, she was slightly stronger than the 3 of them, and not much weaker than Shuejian Yi. Shuejian Yi Ao2 and Feng Xian should be on the same level. As for the Emperor God, he was unfathomable and hard to predict. Lu Ming's thoughts were similar to the majority of the people. In the hearts of others, Lu Ming's strength was placed on the same level as Shuejian Yi, Ao2, and Feng Xian. Lu Ming could kill Wang Fenshen, but if Shuejian Yi Ao2 and the rest were to use their full strength, they could also kill Wang Fenshen. Chapter 972. Among the 4 of them, Di Shen, Shuejian Yi, and Ao2 were the strongest representatives of the younger generation in Eastern Wilderness. Lu Ming, on the other hand, was a dark horse. It was the battle in 9 Dragons that really made him famous. That battle involved too many experts. Yan Kuangtu, Supreme 9 Sons, and even Martial Emperor De from the 6 great ancient families of the Central Continent Ancient Saint Dynasty. After this battle, Lu Ming's name spread throughout the Eastern Wilderness. But the most famous one was Lu Ming's ability to control the Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron. As for Lu Ming's talent, it was ignored. Many people thought that Lu Ming's talent and combat strength were not particularly top-notch. They thought that he was not even comparable to the top 100 of the list of top 1,000 talents. But now Lu Ming overturned everyone's thoughts with his actions. Facts had proven that Lu Ming's talent was unparalleled and unparalleled. He was not weaker than anyone else. As a dark horse, he rushed into the top 4 and killed Luo Tian and Wang Fenshen. Now he was going to fight against the 3 most powerful geniuses of the Eastern Wilderness. Although Lu Ming is talented, he is young and impetuous. He is too showy and doesn't know how to restrain himself. He has offended the Wang family's master and other supreme martial artists, Martial Emperor De, and even the supreme martial artist from Sky Demon Valley. Such a genius is destined to not live long. That's right. In history, there were many peerless geniuses, but not many of them reached the end and became emperors. Why? because they showed off too much and didn't know how to restrain themselves. In the end, they died tragically. That's true. In my opinion, Lu Ming will end up like this in the end. Around them, many people were discussing in low voices. At this moment, the vortex in the talisman puppet sect flashed slightly, and a figure appeared. It was Bai Shijin. Seeing Bai Shijin, Lu Ming was overjoyed. "Senior, how is it?" Lu Ming asked. "Don't worry, everything is settled. They are now in Liangyi Mountain," Bai Shijin said. "Thank you, Senior." Lu Ming thanked him. At this moment, a beam of light fell on Lu Ming's body. He was going to fight. Lu Ming looked over and saw another beam of light landing on Ao Tuesday. This battle was between Lu Ming and Ao Tuesday. Ao Tu's eyes flickered with a shocking battle intent. Boom! Ao Tu's burly body fell heavily on the fighting ring. His body was filled with a violent aura. Lu Ming stepped forward and appeared on the fighting ring. Facing Ao Tuesday, Bai Shijin was incomparably shocked. He did not know what was going on, and after understanding the situation, he was even more shocked. He never thought that Lu Ming would be able to reach this step, kill Wang Fenshen, and fight Ao Tuesday. Lu Ming, the 9 dragons bloodline in your body is truly a waste of God's gift. Why don't you give the 9 dragons bloodline to me? I will definitely make it flourish. Ao Tu licked his lips and revealed a greedy look. Sure. But De also has his eyes on the 9 dragons bloodline. Aren't you afraid that he will target you if I give it to you? Lu Ming said with a smile. Ao Tu's face fell and his eyes flickered. If he really obtained the 9 dragons bloodline, and was targeted by Martial Royal De, he would not be able to live in peace. Even the supremes of the Jiao Dragon tribe would not be able to protect him. Even the Monster Royal might not be able to protect him. His heart sank when he thought of this. Hee, looks like you don't dare to take it. What a coward. Come on, let's fight. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with battle intent, and the true origin in his body was boiling. Roar! Roar! 2 dragon roars were heard at the same time. One of them came from Ao Tuesday. He immediately turned into a Jiao dragon. The other dragon roar came from Lu Ming's body. He unleashed a burst of dragon force. Lu Ming's body was covered with a layer of purplish golden scales. He took a step forward and charged toward Ao Tuesday. Golden Storm Slash. As soon as Ao Tu opened his mouth, a ray of dark golden light burst out from his mouth and slashed toward Lu Ming. The light was like a saber light, but it was sharper and more terrifying. Lu Ming threw out a punch and collided with the dark golden light. Boom! There was an explosion and Lu Ming's body trembled. He was pushed back 100 meters before he could regain his balance. There were still countless sharp forces on his arm that were cutting his scales, causing sparks to fly. What a powerful metal attribute will. He circulated his true essence, and with a jolt, the sharp force covering his arm was scattered. Ao Tu had more than 70% of the true dragon's bloodline. He was born with the ability to control metal attribute will, and use it to a terrifying level. The saber light was the combination of metal attribute will and Ao Tu's demonic force. It was extremely terrifying. Golden Storm Slash. Ao Tu roared again. This time, 9 beams of dark golden light burst out from his mouth, cutting through the air and slashing toward Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming instantly unleashed 2 more streams of dragon energy. He had unleashed a total of 3 streams of dragon energy. His strength had greatly increased. Lu Ming was like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. He rushed toward Ao Tu and threw out a series of punches. Bam! 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 After 9 consecutive explosions, the 9 dark golden lights were destroyed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming continued to rush toward Ao Tuesday Gilded Dragon Claw. One of Ao Tu's dragon claws turned dark golden, as if it was made of dark gold. Whoosh! He clawed at Lu Ming with his dark golden dragon claw. Clang! Lu Ming threw out a punch and clashed with the dark golden dragon claw. There was a terrifying explosion, as if 2 hammers had collided. A strong storm swept out in all directions. Lu Ming's body trembled, and he was pushed back 100 meters. When he landed on the ground, he took another 9 steps back. Such terrifying strength and attack power. Is this the power of a flood dragon with 70% purity? Lu Ming was shocked. Ao Tu should be in the middle stage of the 8th tier of the 7th grade. which was equivalent to the middle stage of the 8th tier of the spirit embryo realm. His strength and attack power were terrifying. And this was only a flood dragon with 70% purity. If it was a pure-blooded true dragon, how terrifying would it be? It was rare to see pure-blooded divine beasts in the divine wilderness continent nowadays. According to legends, there were quite a few in ancient times. How could the prodigies of the human race compete with such pure-blooded divine beasts? The only known pure-blooded divine beast in the eastern wilderness was the demon emperor. I wonder if there are many pure-blooded mythological beasts in that mysterious overseas continent. Lu Ming, you are no match for me. AO2 roared, interrupting Lu Ming's messy thoughts. Bam! Bam! The flood dragon stomped on the ground and charged toward Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming sneered, and the bloodline of the 9 dragons appeared. In the next moment, Lu Ming turned into 9 dragons. At the same time, another surge of dragon power erupted from his body. There were 4 surges of dragon power in total. A vast dragon might spread out and surge toward AO2's day. AO2's body trembled slightly, and a trace of fear appeared in his eyes. Yes, this was AO2's instinct, his fear of those in a higher position. No matter if it was a demonic beast or a divine beast, the hierarchy was very strict. Bloodline was the highest, and there were layers of suppression. Chapter 973. Roar. The 9 dragons roared as they charged at AO2 with their claws. AO2 roared as well. He overcame his fear and charged at Lu Ming. A flood dragon and a 9 dragon immediately clashed on the fighting ring. AO2 had unleashed his metal will to the extreme. His metal will was definitely at the 4th level. His body was as hard as iron, and his claws were as hard as dark gold. They could break through anything. Each of his moves had terrifying power. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had 4 different wills around him. His power was equally terrifying. At the same time, Lu Ming unleashed the power of 4 dragons and activated the suppressing hell skill. Every inch of his muscles could unleash the power of the suppressing hell skill. Every muscle on his body was terrifyingly powerful, and every claw had the power to suppress everything. Rumble. The 2 dragons tangled together and attacked continuously. It was extremely barbaric. It was as if they had been transported to the ancient times when divine beasts and true dragons fought. Poochie. The 9 dragons had 9 claws. AO2 could not block all of them. His body was grabbed by the claws of the 9 dragons. The 9 dragons tore off a large piece of his flesh. Blood flowed out. AO2 was in pain. He fought back and tore off a piece of the 9 dragons. However, his claws were almost broken. Boom! The 9 dragons seemed to be extremely heavy. They pressed on AO2 and sent him crashing into the fighting ring. His bones cracked. The 2 fought for dozens of moves. Lu Ming was getting stronger and stronger. He gradually gained the upper hand. AO2 was still affected by the 9 dragons. He was afraid. The more he fought, the stronger his fear became. How could he be Lu Ming's match when he was afraid? Puff! Blood splattered everywhere. AO2 screamed as his body was torn apart by the 9 dragons. He struggled and escaped, but he left a large piece of Jiao dragon meat behind. Jiao dragon meat with 70% of true dragon density. Good stuff. Keep it for barbecue. Lu Ming's voice came out of the 9 dragons' mouths. Then the piece of Jiao dragon meat disappeared. Lu Ming, that's good stuff. Save some for me later. Fatty shouted in the stands. He almost drooled. AO2 was so angry that he almost exploded. He couldn't wait to swallow Lu Ming and Fatty whole. Fatty, it's too little. These are mine. Let me get some more. Lu Ming shouted as he lunged at AO2's day. I admit defeat. AO2 suddenly roared. He was extremely unwilling. He knew that if he continued to fight, he would definitely lose. He would most likely have to pay more flood dragon meat. He admitted defeat. Lu Ming was speechless. He turned back into his human form and looked at AO2 with a pitiful face. AO2 also turned back into his human form, his face extremely gloomy. He wasn't seriously injured, but his complexion looked worse than if he had been seriously injured. This battle he fought too sullenly. After devouring 90% of AO2's Dragon of Providence, Lu Ming's Dragon of Providence continued to grow, surpassing 2,000 feet and nearing 3,000 feet. Such a huge fate dragon was rarely seen even since ancient times. Lu Ming flew up to the spectator stand. Fatty, it's a pity that this guy admitted defeat early. There's no share for you. Lu Ming sighed. Damn it. No, we'll split it equally. Fatty grumbled. AO2, who was flying to the spectator stand, trembled and almost fell off the platform. AO2's face was extremely gloomy as he flew back to the spectator stand. The Flood Dragon's supremacy didn't look any better than AO2's day. His face was as black as charcoal. Lu Ming won the battle in the end, which shocked many people. In that case, Lu Ming had entered the final battle. Next would be the battle between the Arch God and Swordsmanship. The winner would have the final battle with Lu Ming. Most people thought that Dishan would definitely win against Swordsmanship. The final battle would be between Lu Ming and Dishan. This was going to be interesting. Light flashed and enveloped Dishan and Swordsmanship. The two of them flew up to the platform. Do we still need to fight? Dishan said coldly. Many people's hearts skipped a beat. Could Dishan have fought with Swordsmanship before? They had never heard of such a rumor. I was no match for you 3 years ago. But that might not be the case now. Swordsmanship exuded a shocking blood chi, and his eyes turned red like blood diamonds. Everyone was shocked. Dishan and Swordsmanship had fought 3 years ago, and it seemed that Swordsmanship had lost. You were no match for me 3 years ago, and you'll never be my match from now on. Dishan's voice was filled with great confidence. You'll know after the battle. Swordsmanship shouted and stepped out. Terrifying sword chi burst out from his body and filled the air. This was sword intent. Swordsmanship stepped forward, and sword intent filled the air. Clang! Dishan's body also emitted a sword cry, and in the next moment, a powerful sword chi burst out. It was also sword intent. Dishan and Swordsmanship had both comprehended sword intent. Bam! Bam! Both of them stepped forward, and as they did, sword intent surged. Clang! Clang! Their sword intents crossed dozens of miles and clashed in the air. Explosions and sword cries kept erupting in the air between them, and sparks flew in all directions. Everyone's face turned serious. This sword intent was too terrifying. The two of them had yet to make a move, but the sword intent that leaked out could easily kill an expert of the 7th level of the spirit embryo realm. Xiao! Xiao! Suddenly, both of them stepped forward, and their bodies turned into sword lights, cutting through the air and slashing at each other. Clang! The two sword lights clashed in the air, and sword chi shot out in all directions. The two sword lights retreated and clashed again. Clang! Clang! In an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Those with lower cultivation couldn't even see the two of them, and could only see the two sword lights clashing in the air. A golden sword light and a blood-red sword light. But at this moment, the golden sword light surged, and the blood-red sword light was sent flying. Dishan, peak of the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, and Swordsmanship, late stage of the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm. Lu Ming's heart stirred, and he could see the cultivation of both of them. Furthermore, both of their sword intent had reached the 4th level. This was a clash of 4th level sword intents. However, it was obvious that Dishan's cultivation was higher, and he repelled Swordsmanship. The blood-red sword light retreated, and Swordsmanship's figure appeared. At this moment, the blood-red glow on his body became brighter and brighter. Swordsmanship unsheathed. Swordsmanship waved his hand, and a blood-red battle sword flew out from the heart of his brows. The moment the battle sword flew out, it became dozens of meters long. What was shocking was that after the battle sword grew, it split into 2, then 4, and finally 16 huge blood-red battle swords that danced around Swordsmanship. Kill! Swordsmanship shouted, and with a wave of his sword finger, the 16 battle swords danced, turning into 16 sword lights that pierced towards Dishan. Chapter 974. 16 blood-red battle swords surrounded by boundless sword chi blasted towards the Arch God. At this moment, the Arch God's face flushed red as he felt the blood in his body boiling. That's the blood essence. Swordsmanship has merged the blood essence and sword essence into one. Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. No wonder Swordsmanship ranked second on the list of top 1,000 talents. He was so powerful that he had not only comprehended two powerful essences, but also merged them together. Lu Ming could see that Xue Jianyi's blood essence and sword essence had both reached level 4. How terrifying would it be to merge two level 4 essences? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The merging of the two essences created thousands of sword qi that enveloped Di Shen and blocked his escape route. Golden sword qi rushed out of Di Shen's body and slashed out continuously. Every time he slashed out, countless sword qi would be destroyed and replaced by more blood-red sword qi. For a moment, Di Shen was at a disadvantage. No way, Di Shen is actually at a disadvantage. Is Di Shen going to lose? Xue Jianyi's two essences have both reached level 4 and merged successfully. He's indeed powerful, but Di Shen should have more tricks up his sleeve. Everyone was talking about it. Di Shen frowned slightly. He gave up blocking the sword qi and let the sword qi pierce his body. Many people's hearts were in their mouths. They did not understand what Di Shen meant. Swoosh, swoosh. The sword qi pierced through Di Shen's body, and his figure collapsed. Then, everyone saw that Di Shen's body had already appeared dozens of meters away. As soon as his figure appeared, sword qi pierced towards him from all directions. However, it was as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He took a step forward, and his figure instantly disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared dozens of meters away. Just like that, his figure continued to flicker, and the endless sword qi from all directions could not do anything to him at all. Instantaneous step. It's the legendary instantaneous step. Someone exclaimed in shock. What? Instantaneous step? Legend has it that one needs to comprehend the space essence to perform the instantaneous step. How is that possible? Has Di Shen comprehended the space essence? Oh my god, it's definitely the space essence. Cries of alarm were heard one after another. Furthermore, the people that had spoken were all people of the older generation. It's the concept of space, by Shijing, Yen Kuangtu, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Ming's pupils shrank rapidly. There were tens of thousands of concepts in the world. Of course, there were also distinctions between high and low. Among them, two extremely famous concepts were the concept of space and time. Time and space. Myriad concepts, space-time king. The concept of time and the concept of space were the kings of tens of thousands of concepts. One could see how terrifying they were. But Di Shen had actually comprehended the space will. I didn't expect the Emperor God to have comprehended the space essence and successfully integrated it with the sword essence. He's indeed a peerless figure ranked first on the list of top 1,000 talents. But judging from his space essence, he's probably only at the completion of level 3 and hasn't broken through to level 4. Otherwise he'd be invincible. Bai Shijin said with a solemn expression. Xue Jianyi's expression turned grave when the sovereign god used the intent of space. His sword fingers danced as he unleashed a barrage of attacks. However, the sovereign god's body flickered, and the surrounding sword qi couldn't do anything to him. Whoosh! Suddenly, Di Shen slashed out with his sword. This sword was casually slashed at the air, and did not seem to be aimed at Xue Jianyi. However, Xue Jianyi's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly retreated. Whoosh! Just as Xue Jianyi retreated, a sword light slashed at the spot where he had been standing. Di Shen's attack could pass through layers of the void, and deal a terrifying blow to Xue Jianyi. It was strange and terrifying. If Di Shen became a killer, he would be the most terrifying killer in the world. Whoosh! Whoosh! Di Shen's battle sword continued to slash out of thin air. Then, sword light appeared around Xue Jianyi and slashed at him. Xue Jianyi retreated rapidly. Di Shen used the instantaneous step and chased after Xue Jianyi rapidly. The distance between the two was getting closer and closer. It seems that Di Shen's attack is limited by distance. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he realized what was going on. Di Shen's space essence should be limited by distance. If the distance was too far, his sword qi would not be able to pass through space to attack others. This was normal. If there was no limit, he would be able to take someone's head from hundreds of millions of miles away. This was beyond terrifying. However, as Di Shen's cultivation and space essence improved, this distance would increase, and the further he progressed, the more terrifying it would be. It wasn't just a saying that time and space were king. As the distance between the two closed, Shuejiani was at a disadvantage and could lose at any moment. Wang. At this moment, Shuejiani's spine shone, and a blood-red battle sword appeared above his head. This battle sword had 7 golden chakras around it. This was Shuejiani's bloodline, a level 7 divine class bloodline. Shuejiani merged with his bloodline and turned into a huge blood-red battle sword. Sword chi shot up into the sky and slashed out. Di Shun's sword chi was shattered. Shua. The blood-red battle sword slashed at Di Shun. Defeat. Tiangang Emperor Sword. Di Shun took a big step forward and spat out a word coldly. He pointed his sword forward and slashed down. Voila! In that instant, the space above Shuejiani's head suddenly shattered, and boundless sword chi imbued with spatial slicing intent crashed down toward Shuejiani. That's a low-grade divine class martial skill, and a low-grade divine class bloodline martial skill. A supreme being figure cried out, feeling incredibly shocked. Everyone present was also greatly shocked, and their pupils rapidly widened. A divine class martial skill. A low-grade divine class bloodline martial skill. Di Shun had actually comprehended such a terrifying martial skill from his bloodline. He wasn't even at the spirit god realm. Even if it was a terrifying expert at the domain enlightened spirit god realm, there were many that hadn't comprehended divine rank martial techniques. Clang! 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 Countless terrifying sword chi landed on Shuejiani's sword. The blood-red battle sword trembled violently, but in just a dozen breaths of time, it seemed like it couldn't hold on any longer. A divine class martial skill was too powerful. Break! Shuejiani roared as blood-red sword chi shot up into the sky. The blood-red battle sword spun rapidly like a drill and charged out of the area enveloped by the sword chi. With a flash of blood-red light, it transformed back into Shuejiani. At this moment, Shuejiani was in a sorry state. His aura was weak, his face was pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. I've lost. Shuejiani sighed and admitted defeat to Di Shun. After Shuejiani admitted defeat, Di Shun withdrew his aura. At the same time, the Dragon of Providence above Di Shun's head devoured 90% of Shuejiani's Dragon of Providence. Many people in the surroundings sighed as well. It wasn't that Shuejiani wasn't strong enough, but that Di Shun was too strong. However, after this battle, everyone finally saw a portion of Di Shun's strength. He was at the peak of the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, and had grasped the concept of space and sword. Moreover, he had comprehended a low-grade divine class bloodline martial skill. Such strength was simply too shocking. By Shijin, Du Songjue, Yan Kuangtu by Qi, Shui, Fatty, and the others all had solemn expressions. Chapter 975. Lu Ming, if you can't beat him, just admit defeat. You have achieved enough. I believe no one will object to you becoming the official Zongzi. Bai Shijin whispered to Lu Ming. That's right, Lu Ming. Do what you can. Du Songjue also whispered a warning. Seniors, don't worry. Lu Ming knows what to do. Lu Ming smiled. It seemed that no one thought that he could win. Bai Shijin and Du Songjue were tactful, but their meaning was obvious. They did not think that he could win. It did not feel good to be looked down upon. There was a sharp glint in Lu Ming's eyes. How would he know if he did not fight? At that moment, the Di Shun looked at Lu Ming. Then, he stepped out and landed on the spectator stand. There was only one battle left, but the light did not fall on Lu Ming and the Di Shun. Obviously, the ancient city of Providence was very kind and gave the Di Shun some time to rest and recover. The Di Shun closed his eyes and adjusted his breath. Half an hour later, he opened his eyes. Buzz! Buzz! 2 rays of light fell on Lu Ming and the Di Shun. The ultimate battle had begun. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming and the Di Shun moved almost at the same time. In a flash, they landed on the fighting ring and stood opposite each other. A Providence dragon that was almost 300 feet long floated above Lu Ming's head. On the other hand, the Providence dragon above the Di Shun's was more than 260 feet long. It was only a few hundred feet away from Lu Ming's Providence dragon. The 2 Providence dragons were facing each other. The Di Shun's eyes were calm and indifferent. He looked at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, You have seen my strength. Do you still think that there is a need to fight? His voice was calm, but it was full of confidence. How do you know that you will win before the battle? Lu Ming smiled faintly. All right then today, let me completely crush your confidence. The Di Shun's eyes shone with a sharp light. He said, I wanted to kill you today, but His Majesty asked me not to. I will spare you today. Oh, is that so? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Emperor God's intention was very simple. Initially, he wanted to have a life and death battle with Lu Ming and kill him. However, Martial Emperor Di had asked him not to kill Lu Ming. Obviously, Martial Emperor Di wanted to capture Lu Ming alive and take his 9 dragons bloodline. The Di Shun, the number 1 of the list. There was determination in Lu Ming's eyes. No matter what, Lu Ming had to win today. If he couldn't even defeat Di Shun and Di, a junior, how could he fight against Di? Lu Ming strode toward the Di Shun. With every step he took, the aura on Lu Ming's body became more violent. 4 different wills surrounded him. His genuine core power and dragon power burst out. His skin was covered with a layer of dragon power. 1, 2, 3. Lu Ming burst out 3 streams of dragon power in one breath. Kill. The Di Shun's sword essence filled his body, and a vast sword power burst out. He took a step forward and approached Lu Ming quickly. A combat sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed out. The sword essence bloomed, and streaks of terrifying sword radiance slashed toward Lu Ming. Boom! 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 Lu Ming threw out a dozen punches, and each time, a sword radiance was shattered. After a dozen punches, more than a dozen sword radiances were shattered. Di Shun, use your full strength. You can't defeat me like this. Lu Ming shouted, and the battle intent in his eyes grew stronger. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. The Di Shun's indifferent voice rang out, and the aura on his body grew stronger. His cultivation at the peak of the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm was revealed. Swoosh! He took a step forward, and his body seemed to travel through space. In the next moment, he appeared dozens of meters away, and rushed toward Lu Ming. At the same time, his combat sword slashed at the air. At this moment, Lu Ming's hair stood on end, and a strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Swoosh! At this critical moment, Lu Ming stomped his foot and retreated quickly. Lu Ming had just retreated when a sword radiance slashed out from where he had been standing. It hit the fighting ring, causing sparks to fly. Your spiritual sense is quite sharp. But let's see how many moves you can take. The Di Shun said coldly, and his combat sword slashed out continuously. In an instant, he had slashed out dozens of times. Lu Ming's sense of danger grew stronger. Without hesitation, he ran wildly on the fighting ring. Swoosh! 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 Wherever Lu Ming ran, sword radiances would slash out continuously. Every slash almost landed on Lu Ming's body. Do you only know how to run? But in front of me, you don't even have the right to run. The Di Shun snorted and took a few steps forward. His figure appeared on the fighting ring like a phantom, as if he was traveling through space. In a few breaths he was close to Lu Ming. He slashed out with his combat sword, and countless sword radiances appeared in all directions around Lu Ming, sealing off all of Lu Ming's escape routes. Since I can't dodge, I'll just use my strength to explode. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a ferocious look, and the last 3 strands of dragon energy in his body exploded. A total of 6 strands of dragon energy, and Lu Ming exploded all at once. His strength increased crazily, and Lu Ming threw out dozens of punches in all directions. Boom! 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 The sword radiances in the surroundings were all shattered. However, Lu Ming did not stop, and continued to throw punches. Every punch was accompanied by a terrifying explosion of power, completely distorting and compressing the space. The sword radiances slashed out by the Di Shun were crushed before they could slash out from the space. The Di Shun's eyes turned cold, and he continued to slash out with his combat sword, while Lu Ming's fists continued to bombard the air. Every attack shattered the Di Shun's sword radiances. Haha, Lu Ming's move is not bad. Yan Kuangta laughed. Although the Di Shun's sword can travel through the void and change unpredictably, when the sword radiances are about to be slashed out, there will be fluctuations in the space. As long as Lu Ming senses the fluctuations, he will bombard the space with his powerful fist force, causing the space to distort, and the Di Shun's sword radiances will not be able to slash out. Supreme Nine Yang also nodded. Many big shots secretly nodded. They had seen through the trick, but they were also secretly shocked. It was not difficult to sense the fluctuations in space, but the key was to block them. That was the difficult part. Each of Lu Ming's punches was terrifyingly powerful. They discovered that the power that Lu Ming displayed at this moment was stronger than when he was fighting AO2 earlier. When Lu Ming fought with AO2 earlier, he had actually concealed his abilities. This shocked them. Your strength is not bad. Then I will defeat you directly. The Di Shun snorted and stopped attacking. He took a step forward, and his body was like a flickering shadow. He was unbelievably fast, and he instantly closed in on Lu Ming. After comprehending the space essence, his speed was also terrifyingly fast. Lu Ming realized that even if he used the 9 Dragons' sky-stomping steps, he would still be a little slower. As he closed in on Lu Ming, the Di Shun's body erupted with terrifying sword power. The mighty sword power pressed down on Lu Ming, and the terrifying sword radiance slashed down on Lu Ming. The void was distorted and even cracked open. The power of the sword was extremely terrifying. The fusion of the space essence and sword essence allowed the power of the sword to reach the peak. Even if Lu Ming wanted to retreat, there was nowhere for him to go. If he retreated, he would have to face the Di Shun's even more violent attacks. Chapter 976. Lu Ming had a crazed look in his eyes as he channeled his true essence and pushed the power of the suppressing hell skill to 50%. He then threw a punch. Boom! The fist and the sword chi collided, causing a terrifying explosion. Boundless sword chi spread out in all directions, and so did the fist radiance. However, it was blocked by a layer of invisible force at the edge of the fighting ring and disappeared into nothingness. Bang! 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 Lu Ming took 3 steps back as his blood boiled. Not bad. Take another strike from me. Celestial Dipper Emperor Sword. The Emperor God roared and slashed down again. The moment the sword struck, endless sword gleams burst forth, slashing toward Lu Ming with the intention of slicing space. It was the Celestial Dipper Emperor Sword, an inferior divine bloodline martial technique. The Emperor God had just used this move to defeat Shuejiani. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the fighting ring, waiting to see how Lu Ming would block this move. The dragon roared and 9 dragons appeared. Lu Ming turned into 9 dragons. Boom! 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 The 9 dragons clawed and pushed the suppressing hell skill to 60%. The sound of explosions continued to ring out. Most of the sword lights were blocked, but there were still a few sword lights that weren't blocked. They landed on the 9 dragons' bodies and immediately, their scales were cut open. Deep wounds appeared on the 9 dragons' bodies and blood flowed out. However, Lu Ming blocked it in the end. He can block the Emperor God's divine bloodline martial technique. Is Lu Ming also using a divine bloodline martial technique? Someone exclaimed in disbelief. Even Shuejiani was defeated by this move. It was unbelievable that Lu Ming could block it. It's definitely a divine bloodline martial technique. A supreme being said. Everyone was in disbelief. Lu Ming had also mastered a divine bloodline martial technique. It was too shocking. The situation is not good for Lu Ming. Although they have also mastered a divine bloodline martial technique, they can't unleash the full power of the divine bloodline martial technique with their cultivation. However, the Emperor God's cultivation is stronger, and the power of the divine bloodline martial technique is stronger. Yan Kuangta said worriedly. The others didn't say anything, but their expressions were very solemn. On the fighting stage, Di Shun's eyes shone with a sharp and terrifying light. His voice was no longer indifferent, but filled with sharpness. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to be able to take this move of mine. Not bad indeed. Let's see how you're going to take this next move. Big Dipper Emperor's Sword. One sword to conquer the world. Di Shun's entire body seemed to have turned golden, like a golden sun. The battle sword in his hand slashed out violently, twisting the space in all directions. Finally, the space was torn apart by Di Shun's sword light, wrapped together, and slashed towards Lu Ming. It was reasonable to say that only spiritual god experts could slash open space. However, Emperor gods were clearly still a distance away from spiritual god, yet they could slash open space. This didn't mean that their battle strength had reached the spiritual god level, but it was because of their space concept. Driven by the concept of space, it cut through space. With the power of space cutting, it attacked Lu Ming. Space was distorted, and sword light was everywhere. Lu Ming resisted with all his might. His dragon claws clawed out continuously, and his dragon tail lashed out like a divine whip. However, there were too many sword lights around him, and their power was too strong. With Lu Ming's strength, he couldn't block all of them. The incomparably sharp sword chi wandered around Lu Ming's body, cutting open wounds on his body. Lu Ming ignored his injuries and fought back with all his might, fighting with Di Shen. Refine for me. At the same time, Lu Ming was refining the energy of the origin stones continuously to break through to the next realm. He had secretly let the 9 dragons swallow more than 200,000 origin stones. He wanted to break through to the next realm while fighting. He felt that he was almost at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Di Shen was too strong. If Lu Ming didn't break through to the next realm, it would be hard for him to defeat Di Shen. Di Shen had 2 kinds of concepts. His sword concept was at the 4th level, and his space concept was at the 3rd level of perfection. The fusion of the 2 concepts wasn't any weaker than Lu Ming's fusion of 4 concepts. Di Shen also controlled god-level martial skills and cultivated techniques. Needless to say, they were also god-level techniques. Moreover, they were extremely powerful god-level techniques, and the vital essence in their bodies was extremely dense. Lu Ming didn't have any advantage over Di Shen in these aspects. Lu Ming had the support of the dragon's power, but Lu Ming felt that Di Shen also had the support of a mysterious power that was incomparably strong and unstoppable. Lu Ming didn't have any advantage over Di Shen in any aspect. In terms of cultivation, Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming gave it his all and fought with Di Shen for dozens of moves. At this moment, the scales on the 9 dragons cracked and fell off. They were covered with sword wounds, and fresh blood flowed out. It was a tragic sight. Lu Ming. Bai Qi Snow's small hands were tightly clenched together. There was a layer of mist in her big eyes, and she was extremely worried. Fatty, Wan Tingting, and the rest didn't say a word. They stared at the battle stage, and they were also extremely worried. On the other hand, those from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Sky Demon Valley, and Sky Corpse sect were gloating. Lu Ming is definitely going to lose. He can't be a match for Di Shen. What is he waiting for? He's just fighting to the death. I already knew that he couldn't be a match for Di Shen. I think Lu Ming will be defeated in less than 10 moves. Voices could be heard coming from the surroundings. It's a pity that this isn't a life and death battle. Lu Ming can admit defeat at any time. However, since he has offended Martial Emperor Di, he will die sooner or later. The Wang family had thought to himself. At this moment, Di Shen's aura was getting stronger and stronger. Every time he slashed out, sword chi would shock the heavens. The space and sword intent combined to suppress Lu Ming. More and more wounds appeared on the 9 dragons' bodies. Refine. Break for me. Lu Ming roared in his heart, and the vital essence in his body boiled. Suddenly, a powerful aura rushed out from the 9 dragons' bodies. What? Cultivation breakthrough? How is that possible? He actually broke through at this time. Impossible. Voices of disbelief rang out. The big shots on the spectator stand shouted in disbelief and stood up. Lu Ming actually broke through in the battle, and it was in the battle with Di Shen. How is that possible? Unbelievable? Haha, this kid. Every time he exceeds my expectations. He has my style. The fatty grinned, and was extremely excited. Yan Kuangtu, Bai Shijin, and the others were also excited. Lu Ming's move was also beyond their expectations. Damn it! Di Shen's eyes were no longer calm. Anger and killing intent burst out from them. Lu Ming actually had a breakthrough in his cultivation level during the battle with him. This was simply a humiliation to him. He looked down on him and wanted to use him to break through. At this moment, Di Shun's body burst out with an extremely strong killing intent. The Nine Dragons' bloodline is indeed amazing. A faint voice rang out. The person who spoke was Martial Emperor De. The crowd was shocked and then came to a realization. It was not that Lu Ming was too heaven-defying, but the Nine Dragons' bloodline. That was why he was able to break through in the battle. Di Shun's heart calmed down, but the light in his eyes was even colder. Yin Kuang Tu, by Shi Jin, and the others secretly cursed De for being so cunning. With a single sentence, he blamed the shock caused by Lu Ming on the Nine Dragons' bloodline, which calmed Di Shun's heart. Chapter 977. Roar. The dragon's roar shook the sky as the Nine Dragons clawed at Di Shun's sword radiance. Now the real battle begins. The Nine Dragons' eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit and ferociousness. The scales on his body that had fallen off from the sword chi, as well as the bloody wounds on his body, were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. A ferocious and powerful aura emanated from the Nine Dragons. Slowly, the aura overpowered Di Shun. Clang! The sound of a sword rang through the ancient city as a golden battle sword appeared above Di Shun's head. The moment the battle sword appeared, it attracted everyone's attention. The golden battle sword was filled with a noble aura. A golden dragon circled around the hilt of the sword, looking majestic. It was like the Emperor of the Sword, overpowering the universe. The Emperor's sword was a bloodline that could only be passed down from Emperor De. This was the second time that Lu Ming had seen the Emperor's sword bloodline. He had seen it on Di Feng, and now it was on Di Shun. Di Feng was only a level 4 divine grade back then. However, Di Shun's 8 golden chakras made everyone's eyes pop out. A level 8 divine grade. Another level 8 divine grade bloodline. Previously it was Fatty Kong Jin. Now it was Di Shun. Gosh, this guy's bloodline is at the same level as mine. How is that possible? I'm 10,000 times more handsome than this guy. Fatty shouted in annoyance. This guy was the only one who could still yell out. The others all looked very serious. Di Shun's body flashed as he entered the Emperor's sword. The Emperor's sword vibrated, and a vast sword force erupted, pressing down on Lu Ming. Bam! Lu Ming waved his claws and broke the vast sword force. Everyone's hearts were in their throats as they held their breaths and stared at the fighting ring. They knew that the final battle was about to begin. It was out of everyone's expectations that the battle would reach this stage. Lu Ming had made a breakthrough in his cultivation, and his combat strength had increased tremendously during the battle. He had even forced Di Shun to use bloodline fusion. The outcome of this battle was starting to be filled with suspense. Sword of execution. A cold voice came from the Emperor's sword. The Emperor's sword vibrated, and a vast amount of golden light was emitted. The golden light was actually sword chi. Endless sword chi appeared around the Emperor's sword like a pair of sword chi wings. Whoosh! 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 In the next moment, endless sword chi shot toward the Nine Dragons. Every sword chi was terrifying and covered every inch of the Nine Dragons. The Nine Dragons roared and stomped on the ground with their claws, performing the Nine Dragons' heaven stomp. The void trembled as violent energy erupted, destroying all of the sword chi. The Nine Dragons twisted their bodies and pounced towards the Emperor's sword in the air. The Emperor's sword vibrated and slashed towards the Nine Dragons with a terrifying sword will. The dragon and the sword. The Emperor's sword and the dragon. And dragon sword. And the dragons, and the Emperor. The battle was sword dragon, and the dragon blood. More than 20 minutes had passed, but the outcome was still undecided. According to the rules, once the battle went on for 30 minutes, if there was still no winner, the ancient city of Providence would automatically determine the winner. But now they seemed to be in a tie. Everyone held their breath and stared at the battle stage. They did not even dare to breathe loudly for fear of disturbing the battle stage. Even the elders, spiritual gods and sovereigns, who had lived for thousands of years, had never seen such a battle, let alone the younger generation. Every one of them had the potential to become a martial royal realm expert in the future. They were rarely seen in 100 years, or even 1,000 years. If they appeared, they would be the conquerors of an era. It was rare for two of them to appear in the same era. 100 years ago, Yin Kuangtu appeared. He was invincible among the younger generation in the eastern wilderness. He defeated all the experts and reached the peak. Thousands of years ago, Supreme Nine Suns appeared. It was the same. He defeated all his opponents and was invincible. But this generation was different. There were many geniuses and experts. Even the Emperor God had a rival. The two fought fiercely. After a fierce collision in the air, they both retreated. Clang! The Emperor's sword vibrated and dissipated. It returned to its human form. Everyone was shocked. Was the Emperor God going to lose? But then, the 9 dragons shone and dissipated. They turned back into Lu Ming. Their bloodline power seemed to have been exhausted at the same time. Lu Ming, I have to admit that you're strong. You're the first person to force me to this point. But this is it. It's time to end it. The Emperor God's eyes were full of killing intent. Suddenly, a powerful aura erupted from his body. Golden flames spread out from his body. The Emperor God's aura became more terrifying than before. It was another kind of intent. It was very similar to the fire intent. It was called the Golden Flames intent. The Emperor God had comprehended 3 intents. It seemed that the Golden Flames intent had reached the 4th level and had successfully merged with the other 2 intents. It was unbelievable that the Emperor God was still hiding his strength after such a long battle. Everyone was dumbfounded. Oh no! Yin Kuangtu, Bai Shijin, and the others were shocked. They never expected the Emperor God to have such a move. It seems that the Emperor God won in the end. Someone sighed. Lu Ming is just a stepping stone for the Emperor God. The Wang family head snorted. The stronger Lu Ming was, the more unhappy he was. Lu Ming, I wanted to save some strength to compete with the Middle Continent and the other 3 regions in the future. Now, I'll let you have a taste of it. Whoosh! The Emperor God turned into a golden sword and slashed at Lu Ming. The Archgod's ambition was higher than the sky. His vision was no longer limited to the Eastern Barren Territory. He wanted to compete with the geniuses of the Southern Underworld, the Northern Plains, the Western Desert, and even the Central Continent. Do you think I don't have any tricks up my sleeve? At this moment, Lu Ming did not panic. Instead, he appeared very calm. There was even a trace of a smile at the corners of his lips. Buzz! Inscriptions began to appear on his body. Inscriptions began to appear one after another. All of them were support-type formations. Some increased speed, some increased defense, some increased true essence, and so on. A total of 12 arrays made Lu Ming's aura soar. Bang! At the same time, Lu Ming took a step forward. Endless inscriptions appeared on the entire fighting ring, and even in the air. A huge array emerged. Everyone was dumbfounded. Lu Ming had been secretly inscribing inscriptions during the previous battle. During the 20-minute battle, Lu Ming had carved a huge array. This was a secret that no one was able to see. Chapter 978. At this moment, Lu Ming's sudden outburst reminded the others that Lu Ming not only practiced martial arts, but also inscriptions. Di Shun, you're the one who's going to lose this time. Lu Ming roared. He took a step forward and charged at Di Shun like a gust of wind. At the same time, the array on the battle platform shone brightly. Long spears were formed and emitted a terrifying aura as they pierced towards Di Shun. Although he couldn't focus on carving the array during the battle with Di Shun, he had spent more than 20 minutes carving the array. How could he be weak? Moreover, with all kinds of auxiliary arrays, Lu Ming's combat strength had increased greatly. Di Shun's eyes were gloomy. He kept slashing with his battle sword and collided with the long spears formed by the array. Bam! Bam! Lu Ming stepped forward and struck Di Shun's battle sword with his palm. Di Shun's body trembled and he kept retreating. Lu Ming strode forward and kept attacking. At the same time, the array glowed and formed spears to attack Di Shun. Di Shun couldn't win and kept retreating. He was at a disadvantage. He unleashed 3 different intents, and his attack power was unparalleled. But he was still no match for Lu Ming. Most importantly, his space intent was still at the perfected level 3, while his other 2 intents were at level 4. He couldn't unleash the full power of his intents. He roared and fought with all his might, but he was still at a disadvantage. I'll let you have a taste of the prison-suppressing steel. The prison-suppressing steel appeared above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming transformed into the prison-suppressing steel and suppressed Di Shen. The power of the 9 dragons' bloodline was exhausted, but the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline power was still there. Everyone was numb. Many people knew that Lu Ming had 2 types of divine bloodline, so they weren't too shocked. Bam! Di Shen was hit by the prison-suppressing steel. His body shook violently, and he kept retreating. His face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Suppress! The prison-suppressing steel shone, and continued to suppress Di Shen. Di Shen's face was gloomy. He took a step forward and disappeared, reappearing 100 meters away. The prison-suppressing steel vibrated, and continued to suppress the monarch god. Di Shen did not dare to take it head-on. He could only continue to use the transient step, constantly changing his body to dodge Lu Ming's attacks. This scene caused the faces of the people from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace to turn ugly. In this way, the imperial god was at a disadvantage. If half an hour passed, the ancient city of Providence would automatically determine that the imperial god had failed. Of course, this was still better than admitting defeat. If he admitted defeat, he would lose 90% of his luck points. If he lost, he would only lose half of his luck points. Martial Emperor Di Yi's face darkened. The luck obtained from each battle of luck was extremely important to him. However, it seemed like he was going to fail this time. The first place would most likely fall into the hands of Lu Ming and the Talisman Puppet Sect. Emperor God, weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you running away now? Is this the number 1 on the list of top 1,000 talents? Lu Ming sneered and mocked. The Emperor God gritted his teeth, and the flames of anger in his eyes seemed to burn. Lu Ming, in the future, I will definitely kill you with my own hands. Di Yi's cold voice rang out. Haha, Emperor God. Let me tell you, if you lose to me today, you will never be a match for me in the future. Lu Ming laughed. The Emperor God clenched his fist so tightly that his knuckles cracked. He was greatly shocked. This was because he had always said this to others in the past. In the past, as the number 1 on the list of top 1,000 talents, he was superior and peerless. Anyone who was defeated by him would never be a match for him in the future. This was because he improved faster than others, and the gap between him and others would only widen. He had never thought that this sentence would come from someone else, and that the target would be him. However, he was helpless now. He had exhausted his bloodline power, and could not block Lu Ming's attack. He could only use the instantaneous step to dodge. Time flew by. Buzz! Suddenly, the fighting ring shook and 2 light pillars shrouded Lu Ming and the Emperor God. When the time was up, the 2 of them fought for half an hour. When the time was up, the battle ended. The prison-suppressing steel shrunk rapidly and turned into Lu Ming's appearance. Roar! The Providence Dragon above Lu Ming's head roared, and gnawed at the Providence Dragon above the Emperor God. In the end, it swallowed half of the Emperor God's Providence. The Emperor God's Providence grew to more than 130 meters. On the other hand, Lu Ming's Providence Dragon grew to more than 400 meters. The Providence Dragon that was more than 400 meters long floated above Lu Ming's head like a real dragon. Lu Ming won. Haha, Lu Ming is number 1. Fatty was the first to shout excitedly. Lu Ming is number 1. Then Bai Qi Shui, Wan Tingting, and the others also shouted and cheered. Even Huan Zhen, Wen Yuezhang, and the others were excited. I didn't expect Lu Ming to be so strong. I'm not as good as him. Huan Zhen sighed, but he was not unhappy. Instead, there was joy in his eyes. We were competing with Lu Ming before. Jimai, Meng Jia, and the others looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Vaguely, they felt proud. After all, they were once Lu Ming's opponents. At this moment, even Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, Meng Chong, and the others were excited. Lu Ming was number 1. How shocking was it that his Providence Dragon was more than 400 meters long? There was no doubt that the Talisman Puppet Sect would be number 1 in this battle of Providence. How many years had it been? Ever since Liao Tsong disappeared, the Talisman Puppet Sect's situation had been deteriorating. They had never been number 1, but now they were number one again. This time, the Talisman Puppet sect would definitely obtain great providence. Perhaps, there was hope for their revival. How could they not be excited? In the past, they had asked Lu Ming to be number one in the Battle of Providence. However, none of them thought that Lu Ming could do it. They were just pressuring Lu Ming. They never thought that Lu Ming would be able to do it. As for the people of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Heavenly Corpse Sect and Sky Demon Valley, they all had different expressions. However, most of them were shocked. Before the start of the Battle of Providence, who would have thought that Lu Ming would be number one? At that time, both the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and Sky Demon Valley wanted to kill Lu Ming. Most people thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure. However, Lu Ming had created a miracle and even defeated the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace to take number one. Damn it, how could this be? The patriarch of the Wang clan, the patriarch of the Jiang clan, and the others were filled with murderous intent as they roared in their hearts. Martial Emperor De did not say a word, but a cold light shot out from his eyes. Hehe, this little guy is really unexpected. The Demon Emperor of the Sky Demon Valley said in a charming voice, which made many people's hearts beat faster. It is indeed unexpected, the Corpse Emperor said in an unpleasant voice, which was the opposite of the Demon Emperors. Ao2, Shuejiani, Fengxian, and the others had shocking battle intent in their eyes. They knew that from now on, they would have a strong opponent on their path to rise. This opponent gave them great pressure. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.